Hello guys, welcome back to Maison African Motives, still on A-level mathematics, working on polynomials. In the last class that we had, we managed to work on the introduction, and I also gave you some questions from past exam papers, Zimsec. So we are going to do the same. In fact, we are going to have a continuation, not doing the same, but it's actually a continuation from where we left. We have got some questions that we are going to work on. Question number 12 is the one that I'm going to actually focus on. Then the number 2, I want you to try it and see if you're obtaining the same thing or if you are actually able to factorize that question. If you have challenges, then let's know on the comment section so that I will revise that question with you. Okay, so number 12. We are given, also I forgot to write the question paper, but it's one of your previous exam papers. Okay, anyways, the polynomial px is equivalent to 6x cubed minus 11x squared plus ax plus b, where a and b are constants. When px is divided by x plus 1, it leaves a remainder of negative 24. All right, given that x minus 1 is a factor of px, find the values of a and b. Okay. That's it. And I've got 5 marks for that. Okay. Remember, this is factor and remainder theorem. You're actually dealing with factor and remainder theorem. The first part, okay, let's just have our f of x so that all these stories, we can explain them as we are having the question down. So this is question number 12. Okay, sorry for that. Let me just try and reduce. All right. So okay, I think it's gonna be fine. I'm reducing something which is not the one that I want. Okay, somewhere here. All right, so this was question 12. Like we are given the p of x, which is equivalent to 6x cubed minus 11x squared plus ax plus b. Okay, let's see what you're given. We are given that when this is divided by x plus 1, it leaves a remainder of negative 24 when divided by x plus 1. Okay, so when divided by x plus 1, we are going to have a remainder of negative 24. Okay, so this is what we are going to have. When it is divided by x plus 1, the remainder is going to be negative 24. Okay, I explained this part that when you are dividing by an expression, but what you focus with is not an expression, is the value of x at that moment. So what you simply do is to ask yourself, what is the value of x at that moment when you are dealing with x plus 1? So what you're going to do is just equate this to 0 like that. X plus 1 is equal to 0. So x is equal to negative 1. So if it is a remainder, when you substitute this value of x that we have here, which is minus 1, you are going to obtain the remainder. But when it is a factor, if you substitute the value of x, you obtain a 0. But here it's not a factor because you're told it gives you a remainder or it leaves a remainder of negative 24. So when you substitute x being negative 1, your remainder is negative 24. So let's do this, guys. So that's p of minus 1. Okay, if we substitute p of minus 1, we must obtain the remainder because we are given that this is a remainder. And this remainder is equivalent to negative 24. If it is a factor, like what I was saying, if it is a factor, actually, if you are dealing with a factor, then it was supposed to give you a 0. Okay, anyways, that is, so let's substitute in place of x, we are going to substitute negative 1. So that means 6 into negative 1 to the exponent of 3 minus 11 into negative 1 to the exponent of 2 plus ax, of which x is minus 1. So it's going to be minus a plus b is equivalent to the constant, or is it to the remainder, where our remainder is negative 24. Okay, so let me just try and share the whole of the screen so that I can use the calculator here. Okay, so if we are to substitute this into our calculator, okay, let's just put it this way. We have got, I'm going to simplify this part, just combine this on the left-hand side, this part here, and this part. That is where we have got constants, a and b. We can't combine these two. Okay, so that's it. We are going to have 6c into negative 1 to the exponent of 3. That's negative 1 to the exponent of 3. Oh, I forgot to put the 1 here. So that's negative 1 to the exponent of 3. Whatever that we get, we subtract 11 into negative 1 to the exponent of 2. And that's negative 17. So we are going to obtain negative 17 in this case. And we have got negative a plus b, which is equivalent to negative 24. Okay, so as you can see, our equation is containing a and b. That means we are back to simultaneous equation. So just leave a and b on one side or whatever way. So I'm just going to leave minus a plus b on this side. Then I transpose negative 17 to this side. That is going to be plus 17. Okay, well, it was a negative. So if we transpose, it's going to be a positive. So that's negative 24 plus 17. Okay, so if we add 17, we are going to obtain negative 7. So this is equivalent to negative 7. Okay, so that's an equation that you have determined or that you have obtained. Just leave it like this. We just say this is our equation 1. So that was the first statement of having this as a remainder. But we are given another condition that given that x minus 1 is a factor now of px. So x minus 1 is a factor. Okay, so let's get back now to x minus 1, which is a factor. Okay, so if x minus 1 is a factor, then what does it mean? Okay, so this was the first stage. Then we've got the second stage. All right, so if x minus 1 is a factor, okay, x minus 1 is a factor. So like I said, worry much about the value of x. What is the value of x at that moment? We just equate x minus 1 to 0 so that we know what was the value of x. X minus 1 is equal to 0, so x is equal to 1. So when it is a factor, it means if you substitute, okay, I explained this, the value of x, which is 1, you must obtain a 0 because this one is a factor. All right. So this is what you're going to do. We are going to substitute back the values that we are given in this case, which is in place of x. So now we are substituting 1, then equating 2 to a 0. Okay, I just have to write it down. So let me just write at this stage here. So what I'm trying to say, okay, this is not f, but this is p. We are given a function of p. So this is p of 1, okay? So it means p of 1 must be equal to 0 here. P of 1 must be equal to 0. So in place of x, we are going to substitute 1. So it's going to be 6 into 1 to the exponent of 3 minus 11, 1 to the exponent of 2. Then on this part, take note, this is ax, and our x is 1. So 1 times a, that's a. So it is going to be plus a plus b is equal to 0. So that's f of 1. So you can simplify, but you can see, guys, this is 6 minus 11, which is negative 5. So you're going to have negative 5 plus a plus b is equal to 0. So we can transpose this. A plus b is equal to negative 5 to this side. That's a positive 5. Okay, so that's your second equation, which is a simultaneous equation. So as you can see, we've got the first equation, the second equation. Before you choose the method to use, just compare the way that you have written these terms. How are they, these equations? Is it easier for you to use elimination? Is it easier for you to use substitution? Is it easier for you to use elimination by substitution, this and that? So as you can see, we've got minus a, positive a, b, and b. So elimination is actually the easiest way. So I'm just going to rewrite these equations so that we can solve them aside, since we want to calculate for a and b. So the first equation is negative a plus b, which is equivalent to negative 7. The second equation, that's a plus b, which is equivalent to 5. So as you can see, a and a, they are the same. B and b, they are the same. So you choose what you want to eliminate. If you want to eliminate b, it's positive for b, so you just subtract. Okay, so if you subtract the second equation from the first equation, what you're going to have, minus a, that's minus 2a, minus 1, minus 1. B minus b, that's a 0. So you've eliminated from your O-level maths, guys. Make sure that you watch these episodes. If you missed them, make sure that you watch them at Maison African Motives. Okay, minus 7, minus 5, that's a negative 12. So you can obtain by negative, we can divide by negative 2 both sides so that we can have the value of a, which is a 6. So if A is equal to 6, then we can find the value of B from any one of these equations. So I'm just going to use the second equation. A plus B is equal to 5, and we are given that A is equivalent to 6. So if we transpose 6 to the other side of the equation, it is going to be 5 minus 6, which is -1. So B is equivalent to -1. Okay, so these are the values of A and B that we are given to find. All right, that's A and B, the ones that we are given to find in this case. And we are now given to factorize Px completely, the function of P that we are given. Now we are supposed to factorize this completely. Take note here that we are given, now we have got the value of A and the value of B. Okay, so I'm just going to work it down. This is 12B. Okay, so that's 12B. The other one was 12A. Now we are on 12B. So taking the values of A and B, the ones that we got, remember, we got that A was equivalent to 6 and B was equivalent to -1. So you can just substitute into this so that we can factorize now completely. So our Px is now written as 6x cubed minus 11x squared. In place of A, we substitute 6. So it is going to be plus 6x. Then B, that's -1. So this is our Px. So for us to factorize completely, that's where now we are supposed to apply the long division. Remember, I talked about the long division in our previous class, how to divide a function using another function. And long division, you use it when you are dealing with factors. You divide a factor into a multiple to obtain another factor. So that is the concept. I explained that in the first class of polynomials. So make sure that you watch the video if you haven't. So if you have to check back, x plus 1 is not a factor because it gives us a remainder of -24. So we are not going to use this. We are going to work with a factor given that x minus 1 is a factor. So we are going to start from that factor, which is x minus 1. We are not going to waste our time to say, what is the first factor? Then from the first factor, this and that. No, we are factorizing direct as it is because already we've got x minus 1. So let's apply our long division so that, remember, I told you, if you divide this cubic function by a linear function, which is x minus 1, which is our factor. Okay, let me just write a little bit side here. So if we divide by x minus 1, which is a factor, into a cubic expression, we are going to obtain a quadratic expression. So that is the concept that you're going to have. Okay, so let's divide and see what you're going to have. Remember, guys, your division, I told you that it's you divide the first term to the first term. So I'm just going to change the marker so for the numerator there. So you divide the first term versus the first term. 6x cubed divided by x. So there are 3 of them here. You divide by 1x, which means you're going to remain with one of these x. So it's 6x. You're going to remain with 2 of them. So that's 6x squared. Okay, whatever that you get, you multiply back everything here. Remember, guys, I explained this. So you're going to multiply back 6x squared times x, which is 6x cubed. 6x squared times -1, which is minus 6x squared. Whatever that you obtain from this part, you are supposed to subtract. So it's divide, multiply back, subtract, then drop the numbers. Divide, multiply back, subtract, drop the numbers, just like that throughout the question until the last part of the question. Okay, so if we are to subtract here, that's 6 minus 6, which is a 0. You move on to x squared because we've got x squared here and x squared. So it's -11, -6 like this. So it's -11 like this, -6 like this. So negative, that's a positive. -11 plus 6, which is -5. Okay, so it's going to be -5x squared. You drop all the remaining numbers. You are done. This part of subtract, you are done. So the remaining numbers, drop them down. So we're going to drop 6x, we drop -1. Then from there, we continue again. We have dropped the numbers, you divide again back. So first term versus first term, always first term versus first term. -5x squared divided by x. There are 2 of them, so we're going to remain with 1. So this is going to be -5x. All right, so that's negative 5x. After dividing, remember the concept, multiply back to every term which is present. So it's negative 5x divided by multiplied to x, which is negative 5x squared. Then we move on, negative 5x multiplied to minus 1, that's a positive 5x. Then from there, you can subtract. Okay, so if we are to subtract, what are you going to have at the end? The negative 5x and the negative 5x are the same. So if you subtract, that's a 0 there. Okay, so 6 minus 5. 6 minus 5, that's 1. So it was supposed to be 1x, but 1x is same as writing as x. Then you drop the remaining number, which is negative 1, like that. You divide back again if it is possible. Is it possible to divide? Yes, it's possible. X divided to x. So if you divide here x, first, guys, it's always first term. First term versus first. So it's x divided by x, which is 1. So you're going to obtain positive 1. Then you multiply back everything. So it's 1 times x, which is x. 1 times minus 1, which is minus 1. So as you can see, we are obtaining the same part like what we had here. So if we subtract, that's going to give us a 0. So that means truly x minus 1 is a factor. And I told you that once you divide a multiple by its factor, you obtain factor again. So this part that we obtain on the top there, it's also a factor. And the product of these two factors, if you multiply these two factors, they give you this expression under that long division part that we're having. So that is your px. So this whole of px that we see here, it's a product of these two. So therefore, we can write our px as the product of the factors. The first factor that we were given, which is x minus 1. And the one that we obtained when we divided, which is the quadratic factor, which is 6x squared minus 5x plus 1. So you try to factorize the quadratic expression because that one is a trend error. Maybe there are factors, or maybe it can't be factorized. If it can't be factorized, then you leave it at that stage. So you don't just leave at this stage. Try to factorize as much as you can. Remember your factorization, guys. So this one, we can just even try it on top here to factorize it from our normal factorization. 6x squared minus 5x plus 1. We multiply the first term to the last term, that's 6 times 1, which is 6x squared. Do we have factors of 6x squared, which when we add must give us the middle term, which is negative 5x. Yes, these factors, they are there. We've got negative 3x and negative 2x. So substituting these into the middle term, this is going to give us 6x squared, negative 3x, negative 2x plus 1. So grouping these into 2 can allow us to factorize because 3x is common between the first two terms. So we can factor out 3x. That will give us 6x squared divided by 3x here, which is 2x. As you can see, 3 and 6, that's 2. X squared and x, that's x. Minus 3x and 3x, which is a 1. Take note from your mathematics, guys, for all level is very, very important, as you can see. Now we are back to those factorizations. Okay, so we know that we must obtain the same bracket as the first one, but here there is negative 2x plus 1, almost the same, but only that it's a negative, but here is supposed to be a positive. So what do? You factor out negative 1 so that this can be a positive, and 1 divided by minus 1, that's a minus 1. So these two brackets are the same. So all you need is to factor out one of the brackets. You remain with 3x minus 1 on the other part of the bracket. So this is the expression representing p of x, which is x minus 1 into the two brackets, which is the bracket of 2x minus 1 and the bracket of 3x minus 1. So we have managed to factorize this expression or this whole part completely. This is your factor. It's a cubic expression here. So which means whatever that you're going to get, it must be two brackets, unless the other part cannot be factorized. So, but in this case, if it can be factorized, therefore it's going to give us 3 brackets. That's a normal part of this equation. All right, let's see the other part now. Then on question number C, the C part, find the roots of Px is equal to 0. So the roots, these are the solutions. If you are given to find the roots, these are the solutions. So they are just saying solve for x. Okay, so it's just like solve for x. If Px is equal to 0, solve for x. So what does it mean? This is our Px that we had before. So now this Px is now equivalent to 0. Okay, they are now saying our Px is equivalent to 0. So instead of using this Px that we have, which is a cubic expression that we had before, we are going to use the simplified Px, which is the one that we had here after factorizing. So we are going to write that Px now and equate it to 0. So it means x minus 1 into 2x minus 1 into 3x minus 1 like this is supposed to be equal to 0. So you solve the equation. From your 0 concept, you know that each bracket must be equal to 0. So if each bracket is equal to 0, that means from this one, x is going to be equal to 1, or from 2x minus 1, if you transpose x minus 1 is going to be positive 1, then you divide by 2, which is 1 over 2, or x is going to be negative 1 over 3. So these are the solutions that you're going to obtain when Px is equivalent to a 0. All right, so that's what we had. And on question 2, it was actually for you to factorize completely. So like I said, I'm not going to work out this question. I want you to try it out and see if you're obtaining the exact answers. I talked about, I actually referred in a class how to factorize, whereby you need to find the first factor by yourself. You are the one who is finding. It's different from the previous question where we had to factorize completely, but before we were given a factor. Now you are the one who is finding the factor. And I told you, instead of just picking out numbers at random, you work with the constant term, which is in this case, it's 4. You just find factors of 4, which is you try plus or minus 1, you try plus or minus 2, you try plus or minus 4. These are the factors of 4. There must be a number that when you substitute, it gives you a 0. From that number, you have a factor. Then you do the long division, you find the other factors. Okay, so anyways, let's try this question, guys. If there are any challenges, don't forget to come back on the comment section, then to mention that so that we can work it again as a family. And also, if you're new, you can consider being part of the family by subscribing to this channel. And don't forget, like, share these videos. Please share as much as you can to your friends. Introduce your friend so that you can also benefit as colleagues at school or at any college that you are, as long you're doing A-level mathematics, wherever you are. So it can actually help others wherever they are also. Okay, that's it, guys, from us on African Motives. Till we meet again.